Hello, everyone. Let me just type in here. Get my channel pulled up. Okay. Should work there. So, last class, Hello. Ah, hey, Sarah. Who is the Sky Baron? I have a hidden student. I like it. Let me just kind of get everything ready real quick. How was your guys' day? My day's been busy. We're going to go over, today we're going to go over the participation questions. And then I am going to, for those of you who have posted your sentences in Slack, we will go over those as well, like your scripts. And then I'll go over some recording tips because, hey, Eric. Yeah, instead of your school account. That's awesome. Eric, if you have any sentences for your script, oh no, I've got a wild one. If you have any, if your script is all written up, or you have any questions or anything about this upcoming project for this week, or this current project for this week, then just post that in Slack if you have it. If you don't, that's okay. You'll kind of get an idea of what needs to be done here once I kind of go through the other students' sentences and their scripts. So let us start here with, oh no, I've got a monster. He's such a monster. I just don't recommend getting kittens. Does anyone want him? I will give him away for free. Do you want to go to another home? Just kidding. Okay, so let me start off with Bear's question.
Hello. I've always had this weird thought that 3D rigging and computer generated imagery was like two different things. But like hearing you like pretty much say like this is what this is. It's like this is what we've been doing this whole time. I'm like, oh, like I totally had an epiphany like, oh, I finally understand. Like this is oh. But um the monsters. Oh, not the monsters. What am I talking about? The monsters. Um, Eve. The Eve project. I think I was like really difficult for me to do the look target every time I tried to do the align the origin axis down like the Z axis. I think you said.
Not on the look
I might have
target,
to
right,
rewatch
Bear?
it and redo it because I messed up to where when I added the look target onto the head, um, it her head was upside down.
Okay, yeah, that could have been because of the orientation of, if you don't change the orientation of your access, your anchor points is only changed, you only change that orientation on the arms. You don't actually change it on anything on the body, because the body is should be moving that correct way, but because the arms move like you want them to be moving, and the reason you change that anchor point and you orient it facing down is because of the way her arm movements are. Because if you left it that way, you would have to animate everything kind of opposite, and it would be much harder to do with the arms. But if you're changing the orientation of the look target, definitely don't do that. Just redo the look target again and put it on her head. And then if you're still having that issue, I guess I'll play the rest of the video, but if you're still having that issue, record that for me to see, so I can see what kind of is happening.
Was like this and then backwards. And then when I tried to rotate it after I did the look target, her head was like just moving side to side. So I was like, I definitely messed up somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, but also you were saying that like the two surfaces on Eve's head, like how it had like the bulge in it. I seen Eric's video on Slack, and like his video is dope. Like he added Wally, and it
He did.
almost looks like his has the
Getting a shout out today,
like the
Eric.
two, like it almost looks like he added another object onto it and then made it and then reflected her head on there, because it almost like you can kind of see a bulge in his video, and it also has like a reflector on that one, that surface part that he has. So I was like, what, I wonder what he did to do that, because that was really cool.
Eric, what'd you do?
But yeah, my
Did you
only
do something
question
like that?
was with the look, doing the look target, just because I did do it manually, but I still want to learn how to do it correctly, because I totally did not do that right.
That's okay. Let's see here. So I'm opening up the Eve bot project right now. It's just opening on the other side on my other screen. And we can take a look at Eric's too to see maybe what he did. All right. Let me not look through my camera real quick. That way I can move around my scene. Okay. Move so Eve is in there. Ah, so essentially, I mean, you could have possibly put it in a null. Like the look target, you could have put the look target and Wally in a null. And then just animated the null too. That would have been a quicker way. I don't know if you did that, Eric, but that's pretty cool. How about the look of your Eve bot? Did she have any? Let me see in Slack, because I know you posted in Slack. I know you had issues though, Eric. The last time you sent me that email, did you figured it out? Obviously, correct? So it looks like it's his just the reflections Bear are from the environment, right? It's from the because we put in a studio environment lighting, like an HDR in environment around us, right? So the Eve bot is just reflecting that his reflection percentage could be higher. You just worked around it. Oh man. Yeah, oh man, that must have been a lot of work. Hey Angelina, how are you today? Um Oh, you probably got the information we gave you late, huh, Eric? I'm sorry about that. I try and get to things as quickly as possible, and sometimes it's just, I understand that feeling of needing to get something done. But back to the Eve, the face on her, it doesn't look like you extruded her face out at all. Did you, Eric? It just looks like it's, there you go. An image of metal siding to create the monitor look. And you did that inside of, I'm assuming, like Illustrator or inside of After Effects or Photoshop. So that's kind of how he got the, let me turn my zooming thing on here. Because I don't believe the face is extruded at all. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just a higher gloss, like a higher reflection on here. And then the it's just reflecting the environment right there. Like that's essentially the light. The how would I say, like the reflector that you would see inside of a photo studio, or the light that you would see with the softbox on it. And then the eyes, he's saying, in order to create the slotted look, he used an image of metal siding to create that, which is very creative. So cool though. Yeah, see, very interesting. I can't believe you worked around that issue. So did you see though how we fixed it, Eric? Because I want to make sure that I answer that for you if that's the case. With resetting the going to view in frame default. Yeah, the glass look. Is that what you're saying, Eric? Like recreating that glass, like that glass, or just the face in general? Like illustrating it inside of Illustrator? But yeah, good job. I mean, it looks awesome. You guys all did really good job. I'm going to say this, like I was looking at them while they were coming into Slack. I haven't looked at everyone's yet that have turned them in, but majority of you guys have. And you guys are doing really good in the class. You're understanding
Question
it a
about
little bit
the
more
motion.
and getting it quicker in the first time. Yeah, the face in general. Yeah, that's the most detailed part of her, but good job overall though, Eric. And the motion looks good on there too. We'll move on. Here's Megan's question.
Graphics industry. Which types of motion graphics are used the most?
I mean, they're all used, just depending on what it is. We 2D animation, a lot of um, a lot of companies will do 2D animation because it's cheaper than 3D animation. 3D animation takes longer, so I mean you're adding in a third dimension and the animation in it is a lot different. So usually that costs more money, especially because rendering takes a long time and then you have to create materials and stuff like that versus 2D animating inside of After Effects, which is in general quicker. But hand drawn animation takes a long time too, so it's all used in just different mediums. Lee.
Hi, Miss Makara. So, looking at this three-scene animation, I was looking at the requirements and, or sorry, now the process, and I was curious. Do we need to include the script and the sketched out scenes of our animation, or just post the full animation?
Yeah, Lee, all you have to do is post the full animation. You don't actually have to post the drawings and stuff are more for you guys on your end to plan it out. And it's just in general when you have a sketch of something and when you quickly sketch something out and have like a little bit of a blueprint, it just makes the process easier for you in the long run. Because what happens sometimes, eventually what you'll see happening is if you don't plan out your videos in advance, you're going to end up spending more time doing revisions over and over and over again. And so you save that time by creating a solid blueprint in the beginning. And so whether your client wants you to do that or not, right? You should still get into the habit of doing it. And you don't have to turn those into me. If you want me to take a look at them, I will absolutely do that for you. I love to look at layouts, and that way you can have feedback on that kind of stuff. But no, the only thing that you guys actually have to turn in, let me see here, is the actual rendered out video. You guys don't have to turn in any of your assets. I'm going to see that you've made them, obviously, because your video is going to have them in there. And then the script, I was just asking for that to be turned in to me or to like thrown in on Slack or sent to me on Canvas so that I can read over it and help you guys out with your sentence structure or just the script in general before you go reading the recording your voiceover. Now, if you guys already have an idea, if you guys have already done your sketches and you're in the process of just kind of editing down your script and you have a solid plan for what your scenes are going to look like and stuff, go ahead and get started on those assets, right? I've had a few students today who have submitted on Slack their sentences, and that's great. We'll probably edit those down a little bit from what I was looking. Everyone's kind of got like longer, more robust sentences, and we want to kind of tighten those up. But they have a general idea of what's going to happen in their videos, and so they can start working on those assets already and kind of get a head start on that while we get those sentences dialed in. But at this point, because of when it's due, you guys are going to just kind of want to get those sentences to me as quickly as possible so that I can help you if you want. If you don't get the sentences up to me, that's okay. It just might be a little wordier. You might end up having more work for yourself in the long run versus like having it edited down a little bit more concise sentence structures, which makes less work for you guys. So, I mean, if you don't get them to me, it's not going to knock your grade down, but it's just more help for you. It's for you guys, not for me. And then in the end is I just want to see the video with all of these parameters in them, right? The video has to be at least 10 seconds, not including the credits or any title if you put that in. It has to be at least 3 scenes long, 2 sentences of voiceover, at least 2 sentences with some background music, and then the credits where you're crediting yourself and the artist. And then you just post that on Slack and then on Canvas. So. Yeah, so you can do process videos, Angelina. So Angelina in the chat asked if you can put that kind of information into your portfolios because companies do like to see process work. I think it's a good insight for companies to understand the work that it takes behind what you do, and that eventually leverages you to ask for more money in the long run because you're like, hey, I do these steps. It takes me this much time, right? You're like, I've got all this stuff I have to do for it. This is my process. And so what you usually would do at that point, you know, like, I have a reel on my, like a 3D reel that I had done that kind of shows, it shows like I have right here, like what my process looks like where there's no texture. And then, I mean, there's things I obviously would have done. This is old work, so there's obvious things I would have done to change this. And then what the meshes look like, because that's important for people as well to know. The meshes of your 3D work, and then what it looks like with some texture on it, right? Or like, cause like this is really messy mesh right there. There's a lot of polygons happening right here, but that's okay because I'm not animating it, so it's not that big of a deal. But like this shark here, where I created the shark to animate. Here it is not textured. And then my next step in the process was showing what it looked like the actual mesh work looks like, because this is what a clean mesh should be for when you're animating something inside of Cinema 4D, because it affects how the object actually moves and how the parts to it look. And then the next part I have is what it looks like after I've textured it, right? After I unwrapped it. And so you can do something like this where you have some process videos here. I would almost make a new tab that would say, like, you could have a full-on processes tab on your website that, you know, you can do a deep dive and have images of your sketches and images of, or like those videos where it's like a speed run through where you're creating the art, right? Because people like to watch those. And so it still is a good idea to keep all of that work, but when you're turning in a final, you don't want to turn that kind of stuff in. Thanks, Angelina. And it takes I've got years of work on there, so it's got a lot of stuff on there, but Nick is next. Nick, I have no audio. Nick, I think your audio has been desynced from your thing, because I see here that your date on here is correct, but I'm still not getting any audio from your videos. So you might want to check whatever desktop capture software you're using, this cool cam or whatever. If you use OBS, you can link up your mic again, but I think your mic is off. So because I'll need you to ask whatever questions I want to hear them. So I'll let you resubmit that question to me, Nick. Nolan.
So my question for this week, and I'm not sure if this was already addressed, but in Cinema 4D, I was making my Eve, and I had put materials on it because I thought, you know, they look cool. And then once I had transferred it over to another app, the materials didn't stay for this one. I think I'm pretty sure I've done it before where the material does stay, unless I'm just not right. But I'm curious on, is there a way to get the materials from Cinema 4D, say like into Unity, or maybe I did it wrong. I'm not quite sure. So yeah.
It might just depend on what kind of materials you're working with too, because I know there's like Redshift materials inside of Cinema 4D, which are made for Redshift stuff for Cinema 4D specifically. So, that is a good question that I would have to really kind of look into a little bit more. Let me see here. Into Unity, I believe you said. It sounds like you're in one of Casey's classes. I don't know if this is like a Casey question. I mean, right off the bat, it says that you can import textures from like digital content creation apps like Photoshop and stuff into Unity. There's size requirements for it. Can you import materials? I don't see why not, because that one. I'm getting a lot more on models, like importing models into Unity with textures.
Starting an online store is easier than you think.
Hit mute on there so you guys don't have to listen to ads. There's like a video here that might work for you. Like I said, I don't really do work in Unity. That's a Casey thing right now. So, but Nolan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this link to you in Slack. That is a video of this. Let me see here. Check this video out and see if this works for you, because it's about importing 3D models into Unity with the textures. So hopefully that works for you. Sometimes I mean, I wish I knew everything, you guys, but it doesn't always work out that way. I'm sorry.
So my question today
Sarah!
is pretty simple, and it's probably got a super easy fix, and I'm probably just being goofy, but I wanted to ask, when we import, and I opened up a new composition for this, let me actually, real quick, but when we import the AI file, sorry, and we set it as composition retain layer sizes, and I do that, right? But I put it in, and then I put the layers down here, and it does that.
It centers all of your.
So
it
what I ended up doing was like
takes them
I
apart.
fixed it. Like I didn't fix it, but I had to manually like
Set it all up again.
I had to manually like reset everything to where it was before. So is there a way to like import it in without having to like
Let me
redo-
see your settings. Creating the composition.
and
I
we
think I
set it
feel
up-
like it should have worked for you. It's so weird that it did. Like it centered all of your. You know why? I bet you, it is because. Do you have this setting on your... Here, let me open up After Effects. Do you have the setting changed for your preferences where... I know I spoke about it in the beginning of class, but when you create a shape, it automatically centers the anchor point. Did you change that in your preferences? I'm curious. Let me see if that does that to me, because you know what? I have not actually imported a Illustrator file directly into After Effects in a little while. I have this thing that creates them all as shape layers, so let me look for something real quick. Okay. Angelina had the suggestion that it's because she didn't connect the layers because you need to connect the objects. That's the layers connecting those. Yes, that's like the parenting and the rigging process, but when she imports it directly into After Effects, it should just completely, it should be normal the way it looks in, I don't know what's happening here. I had it pulled up and then I lost it. It should be importing it the way it looks inside of your Illustrator file. 3-scene animation. Do I have the monarch butterfly? Okay. I'm going to drag this into here. This is the monarch. Let's choose composition. In fact, I'm going to do it the way you did it. Import. Art 184. Wrong one. Assets. Monarch butterfly. Composition, retain layer sizes. This was checked on yours. I think it's just gonna not put it in a composition for me, but I will check it because yours had that. Let me see what else. Did your settings? No, that was it. Let's import that. Drag this into here. It already looks like it's okay. Mine worked, so why did yours not work? Did you try importing it without retain layer sizes? Did you try doing that? What retaining layer sizes does is it like it makes it so this bounding box, right? These guides for your layer are fitted to the actual layer and what it is. And when you don't click on the retain layer sizes, if you just say import it as a composition, every single layer will be the size of the entire comp. So like you can see right now that the layer size, the boundings of the layer size, let me change the colors here, let me change it to like green or something. Ooh, that's such a bright green. Dark green. There we go. So you can see a little better. But like each one of these layers has like the bounding box or the guide box that's fit around it, versus if I were to delete this, import it as just a composition. Each layer is the size of the entire composition. Notice this little section here, it doesn't change, right? So it's better to import it as, to retain layer sizes. That might just be something weird. You drag the layers in, but not, let me see. You don't recall, you drag the layers in, but not the comp. Could that be why? What do you mean by you drag the layers in and not the comp? You didn't drag the comp in like I did? Did you just double click it? I'm trying to be able to recreate the issue for you. It was saved as an AI file, like I saw that. Oh, not the whole entire folder. Oh no, what did I do? Oh no, you guys. Oh no. I just made it want to quit. Oh no. That's funny. I found the shortcut to make After Effects just not want to be around anymore. No, I don't need you to recover my, don't send a report. Anyways, let me go back here. We'll open this one. Yes. Yes, that's why. So you just dragged in the layer folder. Let me look at your video again. That will
Says
center.
composition retain layer sizes. And I do that, right? But I put it in, and then I
Yeah, don't drag in that folder, just drag in the comp, because what that is it just keeps all the layers that you have inside. So like each different part that's moving separately is on a separate layer, and that will do that. I'm so happy you mentioned that because I did not even catch that. It was so quick. Because if I were to import it, right? Import file, the Monarch footage, retain layer sizes, create the composition, import here. It creates not only a composition, but then this folder here where if you unfurl it, you have each and every single one of those pieces and parts of your illustration done separately. So if I do drag this in here, it's going to center all of them. Because it's not all like glued together like it is in this composition. Yeah, good thing you actually caught it. You caught it. I didn't catch it. But yeah, that does make a big difference because this way, like I could always drag this in here and move it around separately and like rearrange things if I wanted to. I have separate access to this. So like, there are actually times when I'll be working in making a video and I'll need only like one part of an illustration versus like the entire scene, right? Like for instance, I was creating something for a client just yesterday and today where the entire scene was characters, but there was a cell phone and the cell phone had to be zoomed in on and had to have its own separate scene. And so I just used the layers in here that were with that cell phone and just kind of rearranged it to do that. So this usually when this happens, I will create a new folder that's called artwork. And inside that is where I will drop those folders so that I don't touch them. Oh no, I'm sorry that you're too far in it now. But yeah, that's you learn by making those mistakes because you won't do it again. I know you won't. It's just something that, comes with learning on how the programs really work and interact with each other. So let me delete that. I don't need that in here, but I will keep this project open because we will use it later. All right, next question. Lee.
Hello. So I started doing I did the rigging last week. I just couldn't finish it. But I'm having a lot of fun making it. I just saw the 3D rigging. I never rigged anything before, so that's a little intimidating, to say the least. And for the 3 scene animation, like the trial one, you sent the message. I was really confused because I thought you said it was due after spring break, and then I saw it was due March 8th, and I already had most of it done, but then when I saw the thing, I was like, oh, okay, it's not due March 8th, then I can just wait till after spring break, or when the next due date is when it gets changed. And then it didn't get changed. I don't know if I misread the message or not.
So the 3 scene animation was up early so that if anyone wanted to start the project, they could have, oops, I didn't mean to do that. If anyone wanted to start the project early, they had the chance to in order to submit that video in for the Artists of Promise, which was due the Tuesday after spring break. And so that's why I had this one up because we didn't get a chance to actually go over the project before spring break. So I wanted you guys to be able to look at it and take what you had learned from the Monarch video one and apply those same principles to this current project, right? And then I wanted to go over the rigging process because this one is really integral as far as like adding that rigging and stuff into there. That So that's why it was kind of out of order, and that's why I changed the dates on that and stuff. So you're ahead of it, right? And now you can update it as needed because of this class, this week's class. But the order of them should have been you had the monarch butterfly one due I think it was right before spring break, and then the revision run was due right after spring break. And then after that, we spoke about the robot arm, and then we did the Eve project, and then now is when we're working on the custom 3D scene, or I'm sorry, the custom 3 scene animation. I don't know why I said 3D. But I'm sorry if that was confusing to you guys. That's not what I meant to happen. It was just spring break kind of crept up on me quickly, and I was told that this specific project here was good for students who would want to submit to Artists of Promise, and so I had to rearrange some of the schedule of like which projects we were going to work on because I had a certain order going, and then I had to kind of drop this one in earlier than what I was intentionally having it done so that you guys could just have the opportunity to submit that in if you guys wanted to. But yeah, this one's due the 12th, which is next week.
I don't know if I misread the message or not, but yeah, that's all I have.
All right, Angelina in the chat today.
Hello. Okey
Hopefully I can help you today.
So, my question was, it's kind of a general question. Let's say you have cube 1 and cube 2 here, right? You know how you go to make it like editable, like when you're doing like the polygons and stuff, and you went in here and you're like, oh, more segments, etc. for like Eve, for funsies. What is the difference between doing a connect objects and delete versus just going to it and hitting C? Is it basically the same thing, or does it do something different?
The connect objects and delete is
just was
different,
because in
I think.
200, for a different project, we were doing the connect objects and delete option and not just pressing C. So I was just wondering if those do different things. I'm assuming they do different things, and I was just wondering what those different things are, and in what instances specifically would you want to do one or the other. I don't know if
let's
that's
look.
too much of a question.
No, that's a good, in fact, let's see. Let's open up Cinema 4D and look into that to specifically see what that does, because the C just turns it into like an editable object where you can pull it apart and work with that mesh that you've created. Let's see what the connect and delete specifically says inside of like our manual, right? The cool thing is that Cinema 4D allows you to right click on things and view the information about them usually. So let's shut these off. Let's not look through my camera right now. Good question. No, not long-winded, but can I tell you what I heard? I heard a kitty in the background. I like the animals. All right, so let's create a cube. Let's right click on that cube, and down here it was connect objects and delete. It might just be the same thing. Let's undo that. Can I right click on that and find out? Oh. You guys are testing my knowledge today. I love it. The delete thing has to do something. That's why I'm like so... Hold on. Let's
Hello
hear real
and
quick
welcome
right
to
here.
the Maxon Video Quick Tips. Cinema 4D 11.5 has got a great new feature for you. You need to connect many objects into one single object. You select them. After that, make a right click and go to the new function Connect and Delete. All the objects get deleted.
That's why. So it's meant to connect things together and then delete the separate objects. So like if you have the two ones here, it's not necessarily for a single object. I think that's what it's saying. So let's say we have 3 cubes. I move over here. Select this. I want them to not be editable. Let's see. And it might just turn them into editable objects. Just so I have them all 3 separate cubes here, right? I'm going to select all of them. Right click, hit that connect objects and delete. It turns them all into one single object. And then it deletes all the instances that you have there. You have a little zoo. That's cute. So that's really what this does. So, I mean, it's obviously going to turn it into an editable object. That seems like what it does because it's just taking them and like melding them together. So it needs them to be editable in order to figure out. I'm sure this is what's happening on the back end of it, right? The software needs to figure out where the center point of those objects are together when combined. And so that is why it's turning it into an editable object, which would seem like it's doing the same thing, but it's not. Close though. I mean, it does essentially, if you only got one object, it does do the same thing because you're only selecting that one. But it has an actual function to it for deleting all the stuff that shouldn't be there. Like the example that I saw there was like, he obviously had a little model, like a little statue model of the elephant. He didn't want all of the, like, he was done with it all being separate layers. Nothing's going to be animated, right? So he's just going to connect all that into one solid mesh so that he can export it, I don't know, for doing something like 3D printing or something like that. I feel like that would probably be a good reason to have them all connected. But then again, I don't 3D print. But that was a good question. Because I've never actually used that, so now I know too. Google,
I did
yeah.
the 2 different renders. I did a viewport one, which came out like this. It didn't show any of the shadows at all.
Yeah, so in the viewport, you have to turn those on. So in the viewport render, if you hit Control V, is it Control V, Shift V? Shift V. Let me write that down for you. This is Juliana's question. Increase the size of this. Shift plus V equals viewport settings. And there is where you can turn on like shadows and stuff. That's so you can see them in here to make sure that they're actually turned on. So you go into effects, you'll turn on your shadows, your transparency, your I think you can turn on the HQ noise, the SSAO. You don't have to worry about depth of field right now. But you'll want to turn those on so you can see them inside of your viewport. But then you also want to make sure that inside of your viewport renderer that under here, you're also selecting those same things. So you're essentially like mirroring what you do inside of the viewport settings, also inside of the settings of your viewport renderer here. So if these aren't turned on, it's not going to render that out for you. So you want to make sure, especially because in this Eve project, we have reflections, we have shadows on there, the transparency, we don't have really glass or anything, but I would still turn it on just in case. The HQ noises and this is the ambient occlusion, right? That we talked about that class as well. And so you want to turn those on, and then you want to render it out so that it includes those inside of your renders. Let's continue your question.
The other one I did. Back up. No, it's just here. The other one I did, the physical one, it did the shadows fine.
Yeah, because it already includes all that stuff. You don't have to turn that on.
I was wondering. I
oh,
thought
there you have it on
with
in your
the
viewport.
We were like forcing shadows, and they just went.
Yeah, so the difference, I'm sorry I didn't clarify that for you guys. The difference here is that this one is what you're seeing in your viewport while you're working, and the one inside of your render settings is the one that's going to render it out with those. And so they have to mirror each other. Whatever, they don't have to, right? If it's easier on your machine to work without live adding in those shadows and stuff, right? If your computer's chugging along, you're like, hey, it'd be easier if I'm not working with these shadows. It's not having to compute the lighting and all this kind of the reflections and the shadows and all this other stuff. You can uncheck that stuff in your viewport settings, but then just make sure that they're turned on inside of those render settings.
Be as good, but they'd still exist. So I was wondering if I messed that up somewhere. I have the viewport perspective thing open.
That was confusing. I apologize. I didn't go through that clearly.
Stuff out right here.
Oh yeah, let's see. Yeah. Go back. You almost got it.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, close. You were there. You were getting there. But good question, Juliana. Let's see here. Angelina said, I see. And that's helpful for when we're wanting to keep things simple for animating purposes. At least for this project. Yeah, so you don't want to do that if you're animating things on your 3D objects separately. You don't want to... You know what that would have been good for is if, when two objects are supposed to animate in the same positions, so the arms but the arms it's good to have separate control over because you can have one waving, you can have another one doing something else, so you don't want to join them together, because once you merge them, I don't know if you can undo that. Let me see. Let's try that. Let's see if that will work. Got 3 cubes. It's not looking there. Let's pull out of the scene. Move them over. Cube 1. This one. We'll move it over, right? Let's do that. Right click, connect objects and delete. They all now are one object. No, you can't. You might just want to connect objects. Let's see if that works. Let's undo that. If we connect objects and it doesn't delete the other ones, see what it does is it creates a cube. These ones still will show up, I think. Like if I take this one's the one that was just joined. It created another object for me. I have my original copies here. I can just shy those layers by coming in here and turning them off. So you don't have to see them. But then I have this joined one together. So it would be a good idea to do it if you're planning on never animating it. If you're going to animate it, I highly suggest don't do it. At least work in a non-destructive. Here's a great tip for you guys. So when you're working inside of any kind of digital workspace, right? Work in a non-destructive workflow. So what does that mean, right? It means that if you're planning to do something big with that specific thing you spent a lot of time on, make a copy of it. Don't delete it, right? If you're Let me see here. How can I explain? This is a really good thing as far as like editing video to not work in a destructive workflow. So let's say I wanted to join, like just that whole example I had there. Like if I was exporting out an image of the object where all I wanted it was connected together. So for some reason or another, and then, I wasn't sure if I was going to animate it later or not. I would work in that non-destructive workflow where I would create it but not delete the other ones. And then I would just take the other ones, put them in a full, like a separate null, like put these all in their own separate null here where I could shut this off. And essentially, I think you can turn everything off, right? And then this would just be layers. I would rename it that or something. And that way, if I ever needed to come back, right, like I would have my one object that was all connected and ready to go. But then if I ever was like, oh gosh, I need to make changes now, it's easier to do that if you don't work in a destructive way, right? Because then you're like, oh, well, I can just open this and unfurl this and get all my original stuff out, versus like you've deleted it 6 months later, you have to go touch that project and you're like, oh gosh, now I've got twice as much work to have to do because I have to figure out how to redo this and make it look the same, right? So that non-destructive workflow should really just kind of be something that you guys apply to all forms of digital media. Like if you're making let's say you've created an illustration in Procreate or in Illustrator, I don't care, whatever program, and you want to take it in and you want to add hand-drawn animations over the top of it. So then make yourself one copy of that illustration, like a workable file, make a copy of that file and save that as the original, and then duplicate it, and that duplicate is the one that you're going to animate over. It'll save you guys a lot of pain. I promise you. We'll run into that. It is something that it still burns me sometimes nowadays when I'm like in a rush and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do it. And then it comes back to not be fun.
Just curious if 2D
Brandon's
is ever
question.
used for things like eyes during like facial expressions over 3D, because that must be really difficult to animate all the motion and then also the facial expressions and the eyes and the eyebrows and all that. And I know there's rigs that do that automatically, but I was just wondering if 2D is ever used, mainly specifically for like, pupils. I was just curious if 2D is ever used for things like eyes during like facial expressions.
Yeah,
over
you
3D,
can
'cause that must be really difficult to animate all the motion and then also the facial expressions and the eyes and the
Yeah, so when you're watching a film that is like Wall-E, right? That's produced by a massive company that can hire multiple people to be doing things. They're going to animate all the 3D stuff there is obviously going to be all done in 3D. There is not going to be really any 2D facial animations or anything unless that's the artistic direction that they're going in. But in general, they have the capabilities and the time to do that. They connect the mesh of the facial structure together, essentially, where you like group sections of that mesh and lock them in so when they move, those other parts of that mesh move. And there are the facial animations, they're really detailed. A lot of the times they'll use motion capture, right? The mocap stuff to kind of get a general idea of how the face is supposed to move, and then they go in there and they clean it up. Essentially exactly what we did in this project. But you guys, you can take that choice and apply that. There are I think a lot of companies who do like kids animated shows for children and stuff will do that. Will animate things in 2D and like throw it over 3D. There's different ways. So your eye can't necessarily differentiate when something switches from one thing to another. So a lot of character animations, what you're seeing is you're not seeing path animations for the mouth change, or for like eyes changing or anything like that. What you're seeing is that switch happening between one object and another object. So let me see here without getting too... Here's a great way to do it. So if I were to take, let me just hide these. Hide this one. I obviously did that eye here. Oblong. A bling. Oblong eye. So let's say I have this eye. I'm going to set it in the center. I'm going to duplicate it. And then I want it to be kind of... I'm going to hit U. And I am going to undo that. And then I'm going to duplicate this twice. This, not the rectangle itself, but the actual layer. So I've got 3 here. I'm going to move this down. I'm going to change the color of these so you guys can see them. Let's just do dark blue. That's fine. Great. We'll do something brighter, I guess, because red will work. So let's say that the second one is going to be kind of halfway point. Let me hide these eyes so I can see what this one's going to look like when I close it down. It's going to be like that. And then the next one, this one right here, I'll hide this, be that one. Close this. Where's this other one at? Right here. And then I go into it, unfurl this down. It's essentially like that whole switching, when we switch the ball, right? And the ball, this is what they do for mouth animations and stuff. But when we switched the layer of the ball, so you couldn't even tell that it was 3 separate layers, it's essentially similar to that, right? So I'm going to come here, and at 1 second, I'm going to select them all, and I am going to drop this down. And then I'm going to sequence these so that they're one right after another. That one, and then this one. And then if I were to play this back and forth, it's going to look like a blinking eye. If I turn all the layers on, it'll just be real quick switches to it, like boom, boom. And if they're really fast, if it's one frame, if it's like a hold frame and it does it, it's better to show you like with mouth animations. Or here to here. Like if you're talking and your mouth just changes that fast, no one's really going to see it. That's a quick way that a lot of animators, a lot of cartoons and stuff will do things. They just swap out the different hand motions, because you'll notice it'll be the same, like you'll see if you're like watching cartoons, adult cartoons even too, it's not a bunch of path animations and those characters aren't really rigged necessarily all the way to where they have like all this finger. Some of them are, right? But like a lot of times what they'll do is they'll get away with switching the layers like that. So let's say their hand goes from like a fist to open. It's just going to happen really quick. It's just going to be a layer swap, like boom, boom. And then you're going to notice that it's going to stay with an open hand for a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's going to switch back to a fist when they put their hand in there or something like that. So that's another technique that they use for doing like switching things with facial animations, hand-drawn animations, kind of stuff like that. Interesting stuff. Like they do there's a lot of stuff and techniques and just tricks, because your eye doesn't think, you don't think about that. Your brain doesn't think about it when you're watching it. Eric.
Everyone, so just a quick
the baby's sleepy.
Today.
I can't hear the baby
probably
sleeping.
already been answered.
But
I don't remember, but I just want to know like where a good place to start like looking for work for like 3D design and animation and stuff like that. Yeah, that was my question for this week.
so it just kind of depends on what kind of where you want to get into the field, right? Like if you're wanting to get into 3D, like if you want to do environmental design, you start making that work, and then you contact through LinkedIn. You just find companies that you want to work for and look at their job boards. But LinkedIn is a big one that can help you. I mean, find companies who are looking for not LinkedIn Learning, but just regular LinkedIn. Let me see if it'll take me here. Okay, hold on. I'm logged in, I think, at my regular account. And then you'll just type in, you'll go and you'll, not a post, I don't want to create a post, but I'll just type in like 3D environmental artist. There's groups. You can look in the jobs and then just start looking like here, right down here. And then you can turn on alerts so you can start looking. I suggest if you want to go and work with a specific company that you find that company and what it does and you gear your work that you do towards that specifically. And that way when they're like, hey, you know, this is a great idea to like go through here and be like, oh, so like if I wanted to work for Blizzard as a senior 3D character artist, right? Ooh, Diablo 4. Cool. I heard it's really fun, by the way. I don't know if anyone's played the beta, but I heard it's sweet. But, right, you can see here what they're looking for, what their desired and their minimum qualifications are. Let's see here. You might have to go to job description, like to their actual site. You'll need these things to apply. A portfolio demonstrating relevant skills. Only online work submission, please. So like the blog, willingness to complete a test if requested, right? So you're going to want to know how, like you're going to have to know your work. Making sure you have like a website ready to go. Usually there's like the qualifications, what we need you to do. Your range from sculpting detailed high poly models in efficient low poly mesh and collaborative work environments. So like knowing how to make detailed high poly models and some low poly meshes, like to decrease the mesh size. So things like that. So if you're going for a specific job, do that. And if you're just wanting any kind of work, right? Like if you're wanting to just get work and do that stuff on the side so you can eventually get that job, then I know no one wants to hear this, but if you're wanting to do freelance work, which is really something a lot of people like nowadays because there's flexibility and freedom with it. There's downsides to it too. Everything's a give and take, right? Because you have to think you have to be a business person as well, and that means reaching out and cold contacting companies. Hey, I see you guys might need this kind of work. My name's Eric. And that's looking for people like producers, directors, any kind of marketing, like their design, anyone in any kind of design field at the company. You can kind of do a little research and look at those people, and then you contact them on LinkedIn. And it's not fun, and you have to do it a lot, and then you have to talk to people. But that's how you get jobs. That's how you get work as a freelancer. And if you're wanting to, like I said, if you're just wanting to work at a company, then having a strong portfolio in what that company specifically does, right? Or what you want to do. And then just putting out applications left and right. That's all you can do. And then building, anytime you can build contacts in the field, that's also going to get you further, right? Because let's say if you're freelancing and you know someone who is also a freelancer and they're fully booked up and they're like, hey, I can't do it right now, but I have this friend who can do it for you or who does the same thing, their name is Eric, and here's his contact information. And then all of a sudden you're getting contacts from other people. What else was I going to say? It's kind of there's a lot more work out there than you would think. The harder, more competitive jobs are going to be the ones that people want to do. But there's video games made all the time. I always get contacted because they want me to do work for like casino games and stuff, which is really weird. Like, these game companies for cell phone games contact me a lot, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to work doing cell phone game stuff?" I mean, it's not necessarily where my idea of where I want to go in the future is with it. Maybe at some point, but right now that's not what I was thinking. But like, you can contact those companies. There's a lot of companies out there, right? A lot more than we think. Maybe they're smaller than the big ones that we want to be at one day, but those ones take a while. And usually they don't actually hire employees like full time. They're usually contracted out. I just want you guys to know that ahead of time. One of my favorite animes is mostly 3D, but has a lot of hand-drawn elements on top of it. Yeah, see, they combine. There's a lot of combining of things in animation. Asia.
Hi. So my question for this week is: we've learned a lot about anchor points, animating 3D characters, and I was wondering exactly if there was a way to keep track better of anchor points in the timeline. I seem to get confused a lot, and I'm just also wondering if animating maybe like humans or animals, if there's usually a much more efficient way to keep track of which anchor points are where and what keyframes. Thank you.
Oh, no. It's just something you get used to. You have to get used to because it's just a lot of stuff on screen. That is the downside to like, that's why you learn to rearrange your windows to see things in certain ways. I will see a lot of people who have, let me see. Is this one set up the way I want? Yeah. So this one is like great for character rigging and animating, where you have your main composition off to the side here, your project panel, because look how much room you have for all these layers, right? And the more you have a full character, they're going to have tons of layers. After you rig it, it's going to have even more layers, because what the rig does is it keeps the originals, right? It's a non-destructive workflow, but then it connects itself to those originals. And so what I like to do is, in that, like, if it comes to that point, is I will what's called shying my layers. This little guy right up here, he'll hide layers, but he doesn't delete them. So that's a way to keep your so it looks like they're gone. But if I just click off that, if I toggle that button on and off, they're back. It just means that shy layer's on them. So if I just wanted them back there, I could do that. I'm like, oh, this tail layer, I don't need that there anymore. I'll hit that. But even if I do that, right, like if that tail layer's on and I hit that shy button, like I turn this on, I'm like, oh, I want to shy this layer. I'm not really moving it, using it. You can do that. The anchor point thing is just going to be the way it is. There's not, not really a way to kind of group them all together. You can group layers together using nulls, but in general, no. You just have to keep track of it when you click on it and you see what it looks like. I can't see them right now because this is white. But if I turn this on and turn the layers on themselves, and then you just kind of have to know based on, right, where your shape is. I have a script here. I don't want to do that. That like there's like some things that you can put in that will automatically change your anchor points where you need them to go. But you just want to manage your anchor points first before you start animating anyways. So, but yeah, sorry, I don't have like a better answer. As far as keyframes go, there is actually something that After Effects integrated last fall, I think, where like if I have position and I change that and then I move down the timeline, let's get back into our normal default window view. workspace default. And I move my thing, and then I'm going to move this, and then I'm going to move this again, and I'm going to move it down, and then I'm going to move again, and then I'm going to move it up, right? Let's say I have so many more keyframes than this, and I need to be like, okay, well, these are all my position keyframes. Let's add like, I don't know, something else in here, like scale. So I'll go back here, like the scale and the position are working in conjunction with each other, right? Let's say that when I move over here, it's going to get, toggle that on, it's going to get smaller. And then I'm going to move over here, it's going to get way bigger. Over here, it's going to get smaller. Ooh, don't collect them all, just do that again. So like it's changing in size. It's also changing in, it's changing in scale. It's changing in position. And I want to separate these by color. You can right click on them and now you can label them. So like, let's say I will, all of my position keyframes, I want to be red. And all of my scale keyframes, I want them to be not on that. You have to actually select, you can select that, but then you have to actually right click on the keyframe itself, go to label, and you can say, I want all of those to be like pink. Well, that's too close. Let's just do green, right? So all my scale is going to be green. All my position is going to be red. And that way you can go through and you can just quickly see on each layer, oh, okay, that's what's that. This, and there. So, ooh, let's continue. We got lots of questions tonight. Let me kind of close this stuff down. Brian.
Hey, two quick things. One was about revisions. Would you prefer us to submit revisions to wait for round 2, or would you want us to do it over or right now? Because I could do either or both.
You can do now and catch up, like get them done, because
thing was,
let's hit that first one real quick. So I would start getting those revisions, the second round of revisions done now. I probably won't post an actual because we got like a month left of class, right? So what's going to happen is I want those revisions done for when we do our reel. So which will probably be in like 3 or 4 weeks. So I would start getting those done as soon as you can. The revisions, the second round of revisions, right? Like I said, there's probably not going to be a separate actual assignment for it. It's just up to you guys to get that done, because these reels are going to be what gets you a job. So you want to make sure your work looks as good as possible. So you take that feedback and you make those adjustments. And then when we put that reel together, you'll have like the strongest work on those projects, where you will feel confident enough showing that to a client, right?
what all,
Second question.
because there's only a month left of the semester, what all are we going to be doing after the design your own 3-scene animation?
So there's a couple...
like what all do we have to look forward to after that? And that's all for this week. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have... Let me see what I'm going to have coming up. You'll do some revisions to these 3-scene animation. So I will double that up with another project that you have. We'll probably do an animated logo in Cinema 4D. And then not all of these are going to be posted, right? Just some of these, I'm not going to do that one or this one. But we're going to have a portfolio. Really, that's the biggest thing is we're going to have that animated logo. And then if we have some time, I really want to get into this color scope project. But if we're going to do this color scope project, I'm going to need you guys to like be really on top of getting your stuff done, because you have to do like, there's multi-parts to this project. And that's essentially what right now this 3-scene animation is gearing you guys up for, is that color scope project where we create we create a short animated video with a few scenes, very similar structure to this one, but you integrate both 3D and 2D elements for sure. Like it's a requirement of that one. And then also it's just based on a color, right? So you have to pick a specific color, and then we go through a more detailed parts of the of like the breakdown of the process, right? So we'll go through, you'll have to do another voiceover. You'll create your assets. You'll do the scene drafts up, and then I'll grade you on each one of those. So that is one where you will be turning in those kinds of things, right? But I do want to finish this one off first, and then next week we're going to do an animated logo, and then I will probably throw in these revisions as well. So we're going to kind of stack up our projects on top of each other. And so you guys are going to have more. That's why I'm saying like this class just gets more and more and more work. In that way, like that's why if you're behind, you really got to start catching, like you should have done caught up already. At this point, you know, you'll be up for a very long time working constantly if you're not caught up with stuff. But pretty much everyone in the class right now is pretty good. All right, Kaylee. Kaylee's in the chat still.
So my question tonight is for our upcoming project. I wanted to try and do an ear wiggle motion, so I wasn't sure how to fully go about that. I was trying to look up some tutorials and got a bit confused, but I was wondering, is it basically the same thing as how you showed us with the tail movement, or like the nose twitching? Would it be the same thing, basically?
Yes, yeah, we can kind of look at that too. But yes, same thing. Basic design using the puppet pin tool. And then you can also look into that Duick Angela thing. You might be able to rig that, but you would have to make each of the ear layers separate. So that's a great way to kind of, right, let's click off of here. Let's say you have kind of an ear that is shaped like you're going to have this section. And remember that when you guys are creating your assets, you like want them to kind of overlap the other parts of it. So then let me change. So this part would be, you have to start thinking about breaking apart your actual illustrations. So this would be ear base. And then let me say that, like, I'm thinking of a folded dog ear right now. For some reason, that's just kind of where my mind's going with this. And then I would have another part that would kind of go like this. Kind of move over here. Like a folded, like a kind of a folded dog ear. Right, this is just a rough idea concept of what the ear would look like. And then what I would do is like ear tip. And I would take the base of the ear because I would change the anchor points to that right down here. Right, and then I would take the ear tip and I would probably want to wiggle the ear from up around there, and then you could parent them, and then you could wiggle the ear like this. You might have to do so. You might have to compound it with some path animations, or change. Maybe if I hit V, bringing this up a little bit, maybe updating the where the anchor point is. You could kind of do it like that. You have to get a little more thought into how you illustrate it. You could also do using the puppet pin tool, right? So let's say I have a pointed ear. Let's grab that pen tool. Can barely see because it keeps defaulting my layers to white, and I hate that right now. Okay, let's add another another point right there. Let's bring that up. Okay, now we have a pointed ear. Like a pointed canine ear, right? Or could be a cat ear, whatever. And then you could take the puppet pin tool, and I would probably pin it here, pin it at the base, kind of pin it all along the edges. Remember, the more that you have, the more detail you can get. It's more to keep track of, though. Probably pin it one in the center, and then you could just move your playhead, select these, and just start moving these pins to kind of create like a flapping motion, I guess. I'd probably leave the base ones alone, but these center ones are going to help in keeping the shape the same, I would say. Can't get too far out of line with these. They start to go crazy, right? I should probably be in like just the direct selection tool. As soon as you start to see what was happening is it was moving up too high, and it's gonna like pinch in that area, and so you just want to pull it down a little bit until it still looks similar, and then you'll just move over again, and then you just keep doing that, and then you can add in with it the rotation of the base, right? And then you have like not only, oof, I forget that it does that sometimes. Just kind of depends. Right? And then you could go overshoot it the other way, and then you could loop that. Let me see. Let me continue the rest of the class, and then I'll see if I can get to that here in a second. If we can do maybe a little rigging in a different way. Here is a vet's question.
Alright, so for this week, we did the modeling and rigging for the 3D. Now, I'm straight up off the bat say I've never done anything like this, of course. I always wanted to make models, like 3D models for like animated, like animations and stuff. And so this assignment's kind of, is helping me learn how to, form my shapes. And I always wonder how people make like crazy characters out of like a cube. And so that alone was like, I was really excited. So I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is how they did it and stuff like that. I think the only thing I struggled with was the forming of like the shapes in general. It's probably I never done it before, so of course when I was doing it, it was a bit challenging and new and out of my comfort zone especially. But other than that, there was a bit where I couldn't shape the head the way I wanted to, and I forget what this is called. The
That's your anchor
here,
your anchor
but
point tool?
I guess I had that pressed. What is this?
Yeah. That's your anchor point tool. It'll just move your anchor point around.
Axis thing. I had it pressed, so I wasn't able to shape the head, and so that kind of like got me stuck for like a while. But luckily, I got it figured out. Other than that, I think the rest is gonna be pretty simple to learn. I'm more excited of getting to do the animations in general. The forming of the robot is what I'm kind of be struggling with. But other than that,
yeah, usually people either do modeling or animating. But yeah, I'm happy you like the project. All right, Jessica.
I have a more general question about everything that we worked on. If we wish to edit our previous work, if we don't like it for some reason, are we allowed to do that? Or do we leave them as is when they're already submitted and graded?
No, you can work on it. If you feel like something needs to be changed, go ahead and change it. If you have questions on it, resubmit it, or you can just send it to me. If it's something that can't be resubmitted, like like I put a hard deadline on the revision run, you can still send it to me and I'll still look at it and I'll still give you feedback on that. you know. But if there's something like, if you didn't like your mountains in the first one, yeah, go ahead and replace it. You know, if you wanted the design to look a little different, you can do any work you want to. I'm not gonna knock your grade down or anything. It'll just you want to make sure that the work, if you're redoing work like the animation, that it's as good, if not better, than what you did before, right? So that's the only thing I have to say about if you do go to redo your work. But yeah, no, you can do that. It's your work, not mine.
Hello.
Zoe.
For this week, I just wanted to ask about the controls for Cinema 4D. Getting more used to using it, but sometimes when I am adding materials or like planes or the studio background, it just shows up black, and usually it's not because of like a light source or anything. So I just want to know what are the right controls to have turned on for options so that I don't have that problem anymore.
Sometimes it'll have
Thank
to
you.
do with like the material like populating with the object. So what I do at that point is I will just come in here and just create a new material and boop, drop it on. So let's say that I bring in let's see if it'll do it for me if I bring in a studio backdrop. Let's bring this one in. See if it'll be black. It's black. So I'm like, like for some reason there's like a material that should be with it that I just don't get for some reason. And so I'm going to just drag that one I made and throw that on there. So I can just have a base material on that. And then you can just go up here and delete that other material tag that is obviously not linked up to it. It might have to do with like Redshift or something like that, because it's a Redshift. Remember, if it's got this little like red shape there, then that's a Redshift object, and it will sometimes they'll come in there funny without. But like if I dropped in this backdrop, I think this one already, yeah, that one came with its normal one. So it just kind of depends on which ones you find in there and which ones you're dropping in. And then if that becomes an issue, just hit the plus button there to throw in an extra, just throw in like a basic material and drop it onto that, to the object. But really good questions this week. You guys had me thinking. I had to look some stuff up. Awesome. The Wally's or the Eve animations I'll probably get to this weekend because we're at 7:30, and I really want to get to your guys' sentences that you've written. Eric's got his script up here. So does Kaylee, and so does Sarah and Angelina. So you guys have been, that's awesome. Let's pull this over here so I can open up a document and drop your guys' stuff in here, and we can just kind of go through and edit them down just slightly. Because just, you got to think, if you've got to say this too, you don't want to have a tongue twister, and you don't want to be like doing that all the time, because you'll be, what is this? What is this white text? The heck? Okay. So here is Angelina's. Tigers. Love it. Okay. Let's go down. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit more about the recording. Here's Sarah's. We've got some Red Panda stuff. I'm going to actually, let me just do this. Sarah, Angelina, Kaylee, IGH, and then it defaulted. That is so weird. That tripped me out. I'm not gonna lie. And dude, I can't with the amount of stuff that these computers take information of. And then Eric. Okay. And then under Sarah's, I'm gonna just hit enter, shut that off. Copy this. Put your text in. Okay. scalies. Do the same. I don't know why it's defaulting it to this weird light gray, but red pandas. Red panda. Eric. Ooh, the fig wasp. That's cool. Never heard of a fig wasp. Are they good or are they detriment to society? Have you guys ever seen those hammer worms? Oh, yeah. So nice that it did this for me for the last one. What the heck? What? I'm not worried about spelling like that kind of stuff. All right, let's do Angelina's first. Let's look at hers. All right, the Panthera tigris tiger species is ranked one of the biggest wildcats alive today. There are many subspecies such as Indo-Chinese, Bengal, Sumatran, is that Malaysian? Siberian. I would check this to make sure that this is spelled correctly because I'm going to assume it's Malaysia. I'm going to highlight that for you, or I'll underline that word so you can, let's check that. Siberian, Javan, which I don't know where that is, South China, and Bali tigers. Despite all these different subspecies of tigers, they are now on the endangered list and are only estimated to have 3,900 tigers left in the world. Good information. I think that just in general, I think that everyone writes a little more than what we really need. We can just kind of thin this down a little bit, this information. The Panthera tigris tiger species is ranked one of the biggest wildcats alive today. Is this different? That's just the... You could even take this out, maybe remove this, and say the tiger species, the tiger is, or you could just say, because the Panthera tigris is probably the scientific word for it, right? Let me see here. Yeah, it's the scientific name for a tiger. So I would either choose this or this. So you could say, if you want to say that, the Panthera tigris species is ranked one of the biggest wild cats alive today. That one's perfect. There are many subspecies, such as Indo-Chinese. This is a long list. You can go through it. That's totally fine. This would be really good for like an iconography pop-up scene, right? Because I'm seeing 3 scenes here. And Bali tigers. Despite these differences, different subspecies, you don't have to, you can comma, you don't have to repeat of tigers. They are silly cats. Despite these different subspecies, they are now on the endangered list, and there are estimated and are only estimated to have 3,900 tigers left in the wild. Let me think of how we can just change up the grammar right about here. Despite these different subspecies, They are now on the endangered list and are only estimated to have 3,900 tigers left in the wild. You could just remove only, and are estimated to have 3,900 tigers left in the world. So remember, the less words, the less you have to trip on. And not saying that having it have these words are fine, but I think that like removing certain words will just be a little more concise and easier for you guys to read. But this as well, it's very good. Despite these different subspecies, they are now on the endangered list and are estimated to have 3,900 tigers left in the world. Yeah, I think that's good. So, I would keep it at this. I guess I'm not going to rewrite it like this. What I will do is just... Wait, did I do any more changes? This is ranked one of the biggest cats alive. Okay. I personally think it's cool to use the scientific name. I think it sounds cool. Where's the slash around here? Whatever. It's not word. This is what I would do. Here. Yeah, so just very little changes there. So, I'll keep that one on screen for you, Angelina, to use. And then Sarah. Okay, cool. Red pandas. A red panda's tail can measure from 12 to 20 centimeters long, almost the length of their own body. Their tails help them with balance along treetops, but can also double as a cozy blanket for them. Red pandas sleep for up to 17 hours a day, and what better way to keep them warm than their own tails? This is cool. So this is a different way to approach it, right? And this is adding, I like how you're adding like your, what better way to keep them as their own tails? This is like one whole scene. You could probably, no, I like that. Maybe despite all of these different subspecies of tigers, they are endangered with only an estimation of 3,900 left in the wild. That's pretty wordy though. I think it added more words than she originally added. Yeah, that's still a little wordy. Trying to keep it, yeah, I know you do. I know you definitely do. Do you read scripts, Sarah, when you do your audio stuff? For now, though, I'm trying to think, right? Because the more words you have, then the longer your animation's going to be. The longer it's going to be on screen that you have to make that work for, which is not a bad thing, right? But it's just you always want to have something moving, and you want it to kind of move along quickly. And so that's why I'm trying to just rearrange these so they're a little less wordy. I think that, Sarah, I think this is a good length for it. A red panda's tail can measure from 12 to 20 centimeters long. Almost the length of their own body. Their tails help them with balance along treetops, but can also double as a cozy blanket. I would remove for them and just say, also double as a cozy blanket, period. Red pandas sleep for up to 17 hours a day. It's my dream. And what better way to keep them warm than their own tails? Yeah, that's cute. I like that. I would just remove that one part of the sentence. And, because it was just slightly redundant. That's the only thing I would think about that. Maybe their tails help them. I know this is going to add words, but would you want to say to stay balanced along the tree tops? With balance just reads a little funny to me, but you can keep it this way. I'm not going to tell you no. You can do it either way. You can say their tails help to balance them along treetops. or you can say their tails help them with balance along treetops. It doesn't matter either way. Yeah, I have a few unfinished projects that'll be unfinished forever. That's a story of any creator's life, I think. But good job on this. Yeah, good job, you guys. Interesting facts, too. First of all, I'm pretty sure that tigers are, like, my favorite big cat. I think they're like 800 pounds, 600 to 800 pounds. They're bigger than lions. I know that. Red pandas, so cute. Red foxes, these are cool. I just love creatures and critters and stuff. I'm an animal person, obviously. You guys know that by now, so. All right, Kaylee's red foxes. Do you want me to change that for you, Sarah? Will you remember that? Do you want me to write the change here for you or no? Just let me know, and if so, I will do that. You could just even say 2. Their tails help them to balance along treetops, but can also double as a cozy blanket. I think that works. Red foxes are distributed all across the northern hemisphere. The red fox lives in a den located on the edge of the forests near open fields for perfect for hunting. They have excellent hearing. I'm going to put they in there. They have excellent hearing and can easily hear a mouse running in the fields from more than 100 feet away. Foxes prefer to hunt alone. However, if they have pups, they will take turns bringing them food. So cute. I think that these 2 sentences could be condensed. So, what if we wrote red foxes live in dens along the let me write this out and then we might change it. Red foxes live in dens along the edge of forests all across the northern, this one I might rewrite, hemisphere. They have excellent hearing and can hear a mouse running in the fields more than 100 feet away. Paste that one. That's a good one. Gosh, can you imagine like what we sound like to animals? It's just so loud. They're just like, humans are like meant to die in the wild. I don't understand how we really survived evolution. Considering all the predators out there, we just got lucky we had brains that were complex enough to like make fire and stuff. Foxes prefer to hunt alone. However, if they have pups, they will take turns bringing them food. That's really cute. I'm excited to see that scene. Let's keep that in there the way it is. Period. Red foxes live in dens along the edge of forests. You could even have live all across the north. Red foxes live in dens are distributed across the northern hemisphere. The red fox lives in a den located on the edge of forest near an open field, perfect for hunting. Live in dens along the edge. I know why you want to keep this one in here, so I'm wanting to keep this in here because this is a scene. I'm visualizing these out while I'm reading them as well. Let's keep it similar to what you have. Red foxes reside all across the northern hemisphere. Red foxes reside all across. I'm trying to think of how we could rewrite this one. Maybe like located in let's do this, right? Let's synonym time. Occupy, inhabit. Let's say that. I like that one. The red foxes are found, let's say this, all across the northern hemisphere. Let's keep this one. And we'll say this. They inhabit dens located on the edge of forests, of the forest. You can just say that. They inhabit dens located on the edge of the forest, a forest, near open fields, perfect for hunting. I think that one's a little less tongue twistery. And then you could say here, just kind of switching around in like every other time. So, red foxes are found all across the northern hemisphere. They inhabit dens located on the edge of the forest, near open fields perfect for hunting. Red foxes have excellent hearing and can easily hear a mouse running in the fields more than 100 feet away. Foxes prefer to hunt alone. However, if they have pups, they will take turns bringing them food. I would just have of forests. The forest makes it seem singular. They inhabit dens located on the edge of forests. Yeah, I agree. Near open fields, perfect for hunting. Yeah, I agree with that, Angelina. They inhabit dens located on the edge of forests. Edges. It all has to match, right? Edges of forests, right? Oof. They inhabit dens located on the edges. On the edge of forests. It works. Edges of forests near open fields, perfect for hunting. Red foxes have excellent hearing and can easily hear a mouse running in the fields more than 100 feet away. Foxes prefer to hunt alone. Yeah, I think that's good. Good job. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I'm excited to see the pups. I think this one could be cool for more than 100 feet away, right? You could do, like what I'm envisioning for this one would be you could do like a pulling out of the scene, like scaling back and showing like a close-up of the fox and then pulling out. So when it's a close-up, it's called a tight shot, right? A tight shot of the fox. And then opening up to a wide shot where it shows more of the scene and showing the mouse. And then you could even do a trim path with like dashes that kind of show that it's 100 feet away. With like I would allow like, yeah, the dashes. I would just do that. You could envision it like that unless you had an idea for this in a different way. And I'm excited to see it though. Let's move on to Eric's. The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. The pollen-covered female wasp enters the fig and lays its eggs once inside. The pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. I think that's great. I think it's like not wordy. It's there's a lot of S's in that, so it might take a couple takes for you with its possessive. Not it is, but it's like mine. Ooh. Also, Angelina had an idea for this one, Kaylee, which is also a good sentence for this. So you can choose either one, but this is also a good sentence. It just doesn't say dens, which could be a tongue twister section of it, right? Let me none. Change this to black. Yeah, that's nice. That's a good sentence too, Angelina. Thank you. Sentence structure. Okay. Why you do this to me? Why you do this to me? Why you making my life hard? Okay. The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. The pollen-covered female wasp enters the fig and lays its eggs once inside. The pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, cool, you guys. Yeah, just concise. I think these are cool. I think these are interesting facts. I love seeing them. Use a French accent when reading which one? The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. That is so bad. My French accent is so bad. The pollen-covered female wasp enters the figs and lays its eggs once inside. I think you're talking about this one, but I was just reading this one right now. So, okay, we've got a half an hour left. So I want to go over a couple of, I get to go over some of your sentences. If anyone else wants their sentences worked on, absolutely, you can put them in the chat, and then either Belle or I will help with that. If you guys are having trouble recording, why you do this to me? So if you need help with the recording, if for some reason it's not turning out well, or you don't have the proper mic to do so, reach out to Belle or I, and we will help you record those. And while that is happening, you guys can, like, I would start doing your assets, right? For some reason you can't get to, you've got the script written, obviously that has to be first, but you can't get to the voiceover right away. That's okay. Just start on the project. So start making the assets, start getting everything done, and then you can time it out. You can adjust the timing of your projects, right? Yeah. There's more of you in here right now than I was waiting for, so that I was expecting. I want to open up though. I quickly showed you guys the Audition, like Adobe Audition last class, but I want to amend a couple things that I was saying, and then I also want to give you guys some other options with some stuff on how to. I realized I didn't really go over what to do if your mic isn't being picked up in there. If you want to do, if you can pull off a British accent and do that, that's fine. I'm not gonna say no. You better hope you don't have a client who's like, oh, that is not a real British accent. But you know, if it's just for you and you're not gonna keep it forever, that's fine. Just make sure you're appropriate, right? Oh my gosh, that's funny. Like Kenny, South Park. My wife does a really good Cartman, and it's funny because she looks nothing like Cartman, thankfully, but she's always like, you can, come on. And there's this, I can't even talk about the episode. It's it's an episode where a truck crashes. It's carrying things, and I'll just say things. But a truck crashes, and he's like riding his tricycle up the hill, and he's all like singing a song. He's like, "And I went away for our lives to be over," or something like that, and it just makes me laugh so hard every time. But he's all like, "Man." Who doesn't like Cartman? Because he's so annoying, right? He's so annoying. It's hilarious. So anyways, we are inside of, I'm going to read actually one of your things. I'll probably just read Eric's because it was the last one I had open. And I'm just going to kind of go through this again with you guys on how to read these. Okay. You do a good Craig and Butters. You guys can do fun ones. You guys can do like 2 separate, and you can submit them like a serious one and then a fun one. We'll take the serious one and put that one in your reel, and the fun one can just be for fun, right? You can always post it on YouTube if you want. But so let me real quick. I want to be respectful of your guys' time. So I have Adobe Audition open. And I want to go, where is it? Not this one. New file. New multi-track session. This should usually pop up for you guys to just go to, you can click up here on this plus icon, or you can just file new file, right? File new multi-track session. Control N will do that. And we want to find the place where this will live, which will be on my desktop. Audio, VO. Okay. Select that folder, and I'm going to call this the Fig Wasp. We'll do that one. That's interesting. So 4800 hertz is fine. It might also be kilohertz here, and if it's under kilohertz, it'll say 48 kz or khz. It's the same thing. Obviously 48,000 kila is 1,000, so 48 khz, same thing. The bit depth, here's the one thing that I want you guys to do is actually do it in 16 bits, because 32 bits might not work well with After Effects. It's probably going to have a hard time processing the audio. So make sure that it is in 16-bit. And then we don't have to work in stereo because it's not like we're doing really any effects or anything with the audio. It's just us and a mic. So it's going to be mono, which means that it's just going to pump the audio, the same thing in both your left and your right speaker and or headphones, right? Each side of that. Now, stereo would be for if you have panning happening in your audio, but like I said, this is just a voiceover, so it needs to be in mono. And so again, these are the settings that you want to have with your own name on it and your own location. You'll hit OK. And this is not what you want to be in. You want to be in the waveform. That's why it didn't pop up for me. So I was wondering what was going on. Don't worry about that. Waveform. This is the one we'll be under. Fig Wasp. 4800. Change it to mono. 16. There. That's okay. Bit depth. 16. Okay. Delete that. All right, multi-track session, mixer controls are enabled. Here, I'm just going to reset this because I just derped it up a little bit. Where's my audition? Right here. What are you guys going in the chat? What are you saying? You're not too bad at the Cartman voice myself. Post fun ones on Slack. Yeah, you guys can post the fun ones on Slack. Thank you, but my wife still does a better Cartman than me. Do I have any tips to prevent peaking? Yes, I do. So there are, we want to make sure we're in, you click the waveforms and it'll go to here. And then I'll title this Fig Wasp and 4800 mono 16. Okay. I just had closed my, that's because I closed this. Let's say okay there. I had closed the panel. If that happens, I think it was, you don't have to worry about this side. Just make sure you're working in the waveform side. And I'll just close this out so it doesn't show it in there. Sorry guys. I just started messing around with stuff and got all crazy. Now, if you go to hit record, which should be control space, shift space is record, right? If you're not seeing this happen, then your mic probably isn't picking up inside of like it's not connected, right? And so what you have to do is you go into your edit and then down to preferences. And under preferences, you can just hit general and go under audio hardware. And then under audio hardware, under default input, it should say whatever microphone you're working with. So I have an Elgato mic. I would put in an Elgato mic. If you guys are working with a Snowball mic, that's fine. If you guys have a headphones on, it should say default your headphone set. And if you're using just your mic on your webcam or whatever, it will just say that, right? It'll say like if it's a built-in one or not. And then you'll hit OK to make sure that that is in there, and then it should work for you. And so a big thing as far as, and Sarah mentioned this as far as peaking, right? What is peaking? Peaking is when, if I start to record and you see the waveform going up and down, right? What peaking is when that waveform hits either the top part of the graph or the bottom part of the graph. You do not want that. It should not be touching. It should not be touching up here. It should not be touching down here. That is peaking your levels, and that means that you're blowing out like the noise. It's way too loud, right? That's like when you put your one of the most annoying things is when you're watching TV and you hear a commercial come on and the commercial's like 15 times louder than what your audio is set at, like what your levels on your TV are set at. That in it, like you're like, oh my gosh, and you have to turn your audio. That's what people will do, right? And so the sweet spot to where you want your levels to be at is negative 12, not 12. Don't do that to me either. Negative 12 dB, sweet spot. Short, sweet spot is where you want that level to be in between. So, here, right here. Let me get my little thing ready. Right there is where you want it to land. No further down than these areas, right? And you want it at that spot. You don't want it really much lower than that. Notice how my levels are really good right now, right? They're hitting in between those levels. They're hitting in between the negative 12 decibels. Now, my microphone has a gain on it, which is a little button in the front that I can turn down if I want to, or turn up as needed. So if your audio is not, if it's too loud than that, you can do that, or you can select all of it and just turn it down altogether like that, right? You can just grab this little thing right up here. Make sure you Control A to select all that audio, and then you can bring that down or adjust it up if needed. Now, if you're peaking, if you're hitting those really high like levels and stuff like that, further away from your mic, you should be about 2 to 2.5 fists away from your mic, depending really on what kind of microphone it is. But most of the mics that we're using are in general directional microphones, which means you have to speak at it in a certain direction. And so about 2 fists lengths away from the mic. And if you guys are using a headset mic, just make sure you're not screaming into it, right? As far as, I think there's a way to set the levels, like to not, like it's, what is it called? The, a limiter, is that what it is? Like adding a limiter onto it. It's not there. Effects. A compressor is something that you can put on there that's gonna not allow you to go above a certain thing. But you shouldn't have to use that. Your guys' mic shouldn't be that loud. You shouldn't be that close. Shouldn't have to talk that loud. But so, you know, those are the tips that you have to use. If you're hitting that spot up there, just let me know and I'll record it for you, okay? Because it should be between the 12s, negative 12s, right there. So I'm going to delete this, all of it. Hit Control A and delete it. And we are going to record a couple sentences. So remember the thing I said last class is when you're recording a sentence, you want to take a couple takes of each sentence. And you could try saying it with different inflections and in different ways. And making sure that you give yourself a long enough pause in between your sentences so that you can like visually see the difference between one sentence and the other. Because as soon as you start running sentences into each other, like when we normally talk, we do this all the time because we know exactly what we're going to say. But when you're editing that is not a good thing. And so you want to make sure that you're precise, pause, that you're clear, pause, that it's a natural break in between. You can always shorten that break if it's too long manually, right? But each sentence, we're going to record each sentence. We're going to export each sentence separately. That's the one thing I really want to talk to you guys about doing today. So just make sure you guys give yourself that long enough pause. Give yourself a couple takes. It might not sound good the first time. It's going to take a minute for your voice to warm up. And let's go ahead and do that. Let's record the one that Eric has here. I'm going to zoom in on this so I can comfortably read it. I have it pulled up off to the side. All right. I am going to read the first sentence, then the second sentence, and the third one. I'm going to read the paragraph all as is, and then I'm going to do it again. So, testing. The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. The pollen-covered female wasp enters the fig and lays its eggs once inside. The pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. The pollen-covered female wasp enters the fig and lays its eggs once inside. The pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. The pollen-covered female wasp enters the fig and lays its eggs once inside. The pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. All right, notice I have 3 takes. A couple of these sections right here peak a little bit, so I would go to, these are going to be like the S's because hatch, oh, the H, ha. That's why it peaks right there a little bit, so either I could go in there. Remember, if I grab up here and go in nice and tight, I can take this and navigate over to those sections. And even going further here, and I can select just that section and just turn it down a little bit. So it'll sound like pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. The S's, I just have a strong S when I say those. So like there's a de-esser that you can apply to your audio, but I'm not worried about that stuff right now. Like that's all stuff that is higher level audio editing, and we're really not doing that. When you do these, usually you have someone who does professional voiceovers for you in rooms that are nice. Notice right here you can see a breath, so I can take this and I can bring that down a little bit if I want. Probably then release the pollinated plant then releases the hatched wasps to continue the cycle again. There we go. Okay, so I have 3 different takes that I could go through here and pick out my favorite section, like my favorite sentence of each one, because I can visually see where each sentence is. The fig wasp has a unique relationship with its fruit's namesake. Like this is obviously the first take. This is obviously the second take, 3 sentences, and then the third one. Oh, by the way, if you use your mouse wheel, it'll increase or decrease the size of that, just so you guys know. So I'd say my probably best take was like the last one here. I'm peaking a little bit. My mic's a little hot. That's what they say when you're peaking a little bit. So I'm going to just take that and drop that down. And I want to export each one of these sentences out separately. And so how do we do that? You want to highlight the first sentence. And I think if you hit, where is it? Is it under clip? I know the shortcut for it, but, oh, crop, Control T. So you'll hit Control T to crop it, and what that does is it brings that section up high so I can see that. And then I am going to you don't really see, I actually have like compressor to compress out all of the room noise, but you guys might not have that. You guys will probably hear you'll see there's going to be a little bit of noise here. It's going to look fuzzy in these sections. And that's just because the mics will pick up the room of the noise. Like I said, if you can work in the quietest room possible, that's the best option. But we're just going to essentially if I did have that noise, I'd want to fade this in so it's a nice smooth fade into that, and then fade it out so you don't really hear that, any pops or clicks or anything at the beginning. And so you're going to highlight that section, and then up here in favorites, you're going to go up to favorites, and then you're going to click, this one's a fade in, and then I'm going to go like right here. I'd even include that little at the end. And then I'm going to go to favorites and fade out. And so that the Fig Wasp has a unique relationship. It's hard to hear because, like I said, my mic, like I have it all set up here to not have a lot of like noise happening. But if there was noise, you would hear the fading in and fading out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select all of it by hitting Control A. And we're going to go up to File, Save Selection As. And then I'm going to say Fig Wasp _ sentence 1. And a wave file. Do the waves. Don't really do the MP4. So waves will be fine. 48, 16-bit. Perfect. Let's pick my place that I'm going to have it. And the reason that we're exporting the sentences out separately is because it gives you more of an ability to like move things around, move your audio around and just work with it a little bit more versus having one entire long audio file. This just makes it a little bit easier. And so then I'll go to my desktop, go into my folder here under audio, VO, and I would technically delete this, but I'll put under Fig Wasps, save that, and then hit OK. And then I'm just going to hit Control Z, Control Z, Control Z to go back. And then you do that again. So Control T, highlight it, Control plus T to crop it. You can barely see a little bit there. Favorites, fade in. Highlight, favorites, fade out. Select all of it. File, save selection as. Fig Wasp, sentence 2. _ sentence 2. That's a 1. That's a 3. Come on now. Oh man, my little Jimmy Deans are going crazy. Do dot. I accidentally left a period in there. That. Check it all again. Looks good. Okay. Back, back, back. Third one. Same thing. Control T. Here. Favorites. Fade in. Favorites, fade out. Control All. You can also use Control Alt S. Shortcuts better. Remember that. Underscore. There we go. And then you will have 3 separate sentences that you can go into and work with inside of here. So sentence 1, the PKF files, like I said, don't worry about those. You'll just use the WAV files, right? And those are the ones that you're going to import into After Effects. Now, there's another class that Casey has taught where some students have like, well, let me ask real quick. Are there any scenes that you guys are thinking about doing that you have questions on how to do it? Whoever's in the chat. A geographical one? Like, are you saying with the map? So, oh yeah. Okay, here's a great one for you to do. Like you could create, like let's say here is your map, right? It's got, let me create a background. Class might go over a little bit because I want to show how to do this one. So let's create a solid. Okay. Okay, let's do that. Let's create a solid. Say you've got like, these are obviously countries, you guys. Obviously. Let's change the color of this because tigers are orange. We'll change it to like a green. Country 1. Country 2. So you want the continents. Okay, so like if they were connected together, you want them to change color. Okay, we can do that. So we've got country 2. In fact, check this out. Let me see if I can import that map of North America that I had. Footage, composition, retain layers, sizes. Okay, cool. Let's do this. Okay, can I select each one of these separately? I cannot, so I'm going to create shapes from vectors. Let's see if this works. Okay, let's do this a little bit differently. An undiscovered country. That it was. So let's say you have like this map right here. If we did it's one layer. I'm trying to think of the best way to approach this one if we did do it like this. Say that we're zoomed in. We're doing like Canadian territories or something. So normally what I would do is I would try, like if you're using this one, you can do this. You can go under to create and create shapes from vector layers, or what you can do is you can go through inside of Illustrator and you can use that, because this will be easier to keep track of, kind of. There's two different options, right? Why did I go back here? My brain defaulted slightly. 3-scene animation, assets, the map of North America. So you could come out here and like separate out the countries from your world map this way, which might be easier, in fact, to do because it's a world map, unless you have them drawn out separately. So let's say you draw your map and it's like a zoomed in section of your map. I'm going to ungroup these. I think there is. Ungroup these. These are... Let me see how this one is pulled apart. I'm going to select all of it, and then I'm going to hit Shift M for... yes, okay. I'm going to hit Shift M, which is going to be the shape builder tool. And then I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to click on each one of these separately in order to build the separate shapes. And then I'm going to hit V and I'm going to come in here and click and then add these to separate layers. I think I did 6, so 1, 2. That's fine. We'll do just these 3. And I'm going to save this. Save it. Let's see if it updated in my... I can close Audition. But let's see if it updated in my After Effects. Which it did, I think. So I'm going to delete this and then I'm going to well, you don't have to delete it. You can just reload footage. Maybe it won't work for that because it's we added layers, so you have to delete this and then just import it again. Map of North America, import. Oh. as composition. Retain layer size. Okay. So we have, now we have our separate layers. Okay, let me just delete these two. We're not working with those. This is the main one. And we want to change these separate layers right here into a different color. You can do it like this. So I am going to turn these into create shapes from vector layers. And I'm just going to shy these original Illustrator layers so that they're still there, but I don't see them. And that way they don't get in my way. Notice how all of a sudden it gives you the option to mess around with the stroke and the fill and stuff. And in fact, when I did that, it kind of changed the color of everything. So I would even do it of the original as well. It looks like it slightly changed the color purple. It's like a tinted color. It's slightly brighter. And then I'm just going to hide this one. Shy that layer. Lock this one so I don't move it. And these ones I'm just going to change the color to like orange. Okay. Now inside of this there's obviously going to be a stroke and a fill. One of these groups is going to be the stroke. If you open up the layer and you open up the contents and you see group 1 or 2 and you want to know which one is which, just toggle the eyeball on. Oh, that's my fill. This one right here is my fill color. And so I'm going to go down to the fill, and the color can be keyframed. So I am going to keyframe that. I'm going to move it up here because I'm going to, let's say we want it to happen after 1 second. We want the color to change. So I'm going to move my playhead to 1 second. And I'm going to add this keyframe right here. And then I'm going to move to 1.5, and I'm going to change that color to, I don't know, something like that. And then you can just hit U on here to just show, notice how it shows you the actual color change and what it's going to look like. So then it's going to change a color like that. And then you'd want to ease this a little bit. So F9. So you can change how quickly it does. You can go into your graph. So odd because it's like going to the speed graph at that point, and we're going to kind of make it look like we want it to go really high and peak here. We want it to kind of meet to that color kind of quickly. Or slowly. It goes slower. I'm sorry. So it's going to slowly go, and then it's going to peak up here, and then it's going to be fully. So it's going to start off slow and go fast. And it looks like that. And it looks like this. It's going to go fast and then slowly go into the color that you want. So it's going to start off fast and then fade in slow. Either way, you can mess around with the easing of that. And you can offset those colors. You can change the colors different. What if we wanted to animate the color change to go along with the voiceover? Would we just take note of the time on the recording and match that to After Effects? Yeah, so let's say the recording's in here. And I'm going to use your example. Okay, we'll just add a new solid layer. Come on, throw it in there. Let's say this solid layer is your audio layer, right? We'll just name it. Even though it's not, we'll just name it audio. And throughout the audio, like right here, you say you're all Bengal tiger. So if you're before you start to animate that, you'll go along your audio and you'll listen to it. And then if you are selected on the layer and you hit the asterisk button, which is the little, it's this one right here, the little star. If you hit that button on your keyboard, it's going to add a marker onto, toss my gain down slightly. It's going to add a marker onto your layer. If you're not selected on any layer, let me just get off of my notation thing. If you're not selected on any of your layers and you hit it, it adds it to the top of the composition right up here. And so you can go through here and you can I'll delete that one. Like, let's say you say the Bengal one's there in the Malaysian one's here, and then, we'll select on the layer. Like the Malaysian one's there, and then later you say another one, and you can say another one. And that way you can just holding down shift, and it'll snap to those markers. And you're like, okay, here's where I need to make the change. So and then you bring this over here, and then you can either, like, you're all Malaysian, right? South China. So you can do it like that. And then you can just time it up to it like that. You can also, like, you can move it so it starts directly on there, like you're like South China. And then another thing you could do is, let's say you had your icon. Like, let's say you were doing that. We'll lock this. But you wanted to do it instead of with an icon of that specific looking tiger, right? Like, because they could look differently. So you could have it, and I'll just represent this by, ooh, my text is really big there. Let's go to 50. Okay, that works. And then I'll just put like a 1 here, so that this is just like a representation of the icon. I'm gonna parent this number 1, because I would parent this icon to my circle layer. And let's say I'd want to scale it in when it says that, right? Like Indo-China or something. I'm going to change it down to 0. And then move it, change it to 100. Or actually, let's overshoot a little bit. Let's go to like 115, 110. Oops, don't hit that. 110. Go a few frames, back to 100. So it's going to do a little bit of an overshoot and then down, not to 10, but to 100. And then you'll ease these keyframes. I hit F9 on my keyboard. Then you'll go in here, go into your value graph, not the speed graph. And then you'll want to kind of have it happen quickly at first. And then these ones can you can pull these ones out slightly to make that happen a little bit faster. And then it's going to pop onto the screen, right? And then inside here would be the image of your tiger or something. And then you could do that, or you could do, right? Like if we wanted it to come from a different direction, like think sequentially, right? That you're already thinking sequentially with your animations, right? Because you don't want everything to pop up on screen at the same time, unless it's supposed to for some reason. You want them to come out at different times. So if I were to duplicate this, let me do this again. Nope, wrong. Oh, there we go. Delete that. Delete this one. Change this one's color. Put this one on here. Yes, icon 2. Change this number to 2. Move the position of this one. Right, you can animate things from off screen to on screen. So you're like, this one comes in first, or this one comes in first, and then this one comes in second. So you can think of it in scale, think of it in positional changes. You can think of it in add rotations onto that as well. So there's a lot of different options here, but just if all you do is sequence those animations, it adds a lot of interest to it, even if there's not a lot happening on screen. So, and the best thing to think of is it should be happening on screen the entire time. Something should be moving. So if you have like an icon in here, right, and it's your drawn cat that has a tail that's moving back and forth, you can just take that pre-composition, bring that down to the icon, like bring that down into your comp that you're working in, scale it down, and then parent it to the icon shape. And then just like you did with the butterfly, right? The butterfly flapping wings, you did the same thing. So just some ideas to kind of get the ball rolling. You guys are thinking on track. Yeah, the walk scene's going to be too much right now, but you can hide that walk scene by, like, if I took this one, let's say let's shut these off. And let's take this, shut this off. And this is going to act as our floor. I'm going to zoom out. Ooh, did I change my comp size? I did. Oh no, it's the size of the map. I was wondering why that was like that. Okay, I'm just going to go back and hide this. And we'll just act like this is 1920 by 1080, right? And I'm going to move let's say this is your floor. And I'll just change this transparency, shut the transparency off so it looks like I have something else happening here. And what I would do is I would move the floor above my cat, like if it's walking in water, or this could be representation of a jungle, right? This could be a bunch of foliage that no, that's okay. I'd rather you ask these questions so you're aware for when you go to do it. So like imagine this floor, right, as a bunch of leaves or bushes or it could be water because tigers love water. So you would have that in the foreground, and then you would take this and you would animate the position. Like it goes here, and then you want it to go to here, right? Holding down shift. I'm going to just move it. Here's my end game. So it's moving from here to here, but we want it to kind of look like it's bouncing a little bit. So right here, I'm going to go up slightly, and then here, I'm going to go back down to the same height. Just take the first keyframe and copy and paste it. So it's going to go, hold on, let me delete this last one here. That way let me redo this. The first keyframe's there. You're going to go over and up. And then you're going to go back down to the same location, copy, paste. And so you've got this up, down. Oh, the reason it's doing that, don't do that actually, because your the X values are going to be across the screen. You want them going across the screen the entire time and not going back to the original values. So what you can do here is you can take this Y value, which is 125.5, and you'll just go over here and you'll type that one in, 125.5, so that it always settles at the same spot from up and down. Oh, that's my X. I'm such a stink. Undo that. It's the 938. Okay, so I'd go here, type in 938, enter, it goes down, and then you want to make sure you move that over. Notice how it looks like a like triangle, right? And so then you'd want to continue that on down the line, and don't move your layer. And then what you can come in here and do is you're going to ease it. First of all, you'll ease it once all your keyframes in there. You're going to ease all your keyframes, and then one of the principles of animation is arcs, right? Moving in an arc, and so you're just going to want to select one keyframe at a time when you're on here, and notice there's a little Bezier handle right there. You're just going to pull that up. Yeah, select this one, and well, can I select this one? Let me see. If the Bezier handle isn't there, you can't drag that. I think you can select your pen tool and click that. And then, so when you select your pen tool and then you hover over the keyframe that's already there and you click it, it's going to auto add those Bezier handles for you. And then once you do that with all of them, you can kind of click that and you can go like this. So then it's going to kind of go down, and then it's going to walk flat for a while. So then it's going to go just slightly here. Then it's going to go up and down. It's going to It might even not do that. It's probably going to just go over and then up. Making sure you're not selecting all your keyframes. Up to whatever this value of this one was. What was the Y value of this one? Is 919. So this might be a good time to separate your dimensions. Okay? Because that way you're looking at each one and then you can label them. You can label each the sets of keyframes. So you can label the colors, right? So if these were your X's, what color is X? What color is the X-axis on all your programs? It's red. So you'll select red for all the X's. You know, if you've got the dimensions separated. So oh great, all of these are X's. When I started clicking those Bezier handles, it started to ease them for me. But you'll go into the key, you're still going to go into the graph editor and work on those, right? So label green. There you go. And that way you can easily pick out the difference between the two. So you're going to go this way, and then he's going to go further down. Then you're going to go up, making sure there's about the same distance between each one because they're going to take about the same strides, right? So he'd go to the 919 right there. And then I would take these and G as in girl is the pen tool. I think you can. Will it let you do that? G. No. Don't do you don't have to curve them like that. You don't have to go through and curve the handles manually with the G. Just lay down your main keyframes and then ease them all and then work on this in your graph editor inside of here. Because this is just going to take more time and confuse you a little bit more. But that's kind of a way to hide the walk cycle. It was also done in the video, in the example video of the capybaras on the capybaras that were on the module. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about on there too. But is that it? Is that the only questions you have? Because if so, I'm going to call it for the night. Okay, cool. All right. For now, that's fine. If you have more questions, you can always write me, write Belle, whoever's available. Either one of us will help you. Belle she's so awesome in all of the help that she gives, and I appreciate her very much. And she puts all the captions, or she puts all the time codes in my videos, which also helps students later on down the road, but all right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a good night. We had some fun today in the chat. If you can do the fun one. Let's plan on doing this. We'll do the serious one in your normal voice, and then you can do a fun accent one for like a fun one we can post in Slack. And that way you have one to show clients and stuff later on down the road. And they're not all like, who's that with the fake accent? Yeah, not a problem. I hope you guys all have a good night. I will talk to you later. And if you need me to record that or you need Belle to record it, just let either one of us know. And we shall help you out. But enjoy, you guys. Close this out. Close that out. Yeah, of course. Always.